Hi, welcome back to Times Square today. I've got a really special guest here today, a longtime friend, known him for over a decade, Mr. Wally Bressler. Wally, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. It's great to have you. So, Wally, look, I've watched your career grow. You've helped so many people break through their limiting beliefs, and a lot of that stems from, a pretty uncomfortable story that you're willing to tell. You've lived 9 lives, my friend, and it's really been an honor to see you work through the trauma you've dealt with.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about sort of where you came from and what you're doing now to help other people.
Sure. It's interesting because I never really thought that my childhood was that messed up. But as I started working on things to find out more about myself, I realized that we were poor, and I had a poor person's attitude, real scarcity-minded attitude. I've had a binge eating disorder since I was 6 years old. I was sexually abused at the age of 10. I started looking at pornography regularly at the age of 11, and by the time I was 12, I was having sex regularly. I was bullied until I was about 14. So from the age of like 2 or 3 to 14, a lot of crazy things happened to me, but then basically I went on a path of self-destruction for the next 40 years. Lots of bad mistakes. I ruined a marriage. I've squandered about $4 million in my lifetime. I went to federal prison, and I contemplated suicide. I was about an hour away from taking my own life, and the only thing that really kept me here, I believe, was like God tapping me on the shoulder and reminding me how horrible it was to lose my own dad when I was younger. And I just realized the pain was so much I couldn't take it anymore, and I decided that I wasn't going to be there in that state anymore, and I made a decision to work on myself. Through working on myself, I was able to find some strategies that I could then use to help other people do the same thing for themselves and create great lives for themselves, irrespective of where they are in their life, how bad things have been, and how far down they think they are.
Wow, so yeah, and look, I've seen a lot of people in life who have self-destructed. I've seen a lot of people who call themselves coaches. I can tell anybody watching, after watching for a decade, you are the real deal. You have overcome severe trauma, and you've helped a lot of people achieve incredible highs. Despite that trauma, you found a way for years to just shut it off and just, you were a performer, a high performer, and obviously that didn't work.
No.
You were just running. At what point did you say, hang on, I'm being successful in some parts of my life, but the trauma that I dealt with as a kid is actually destroying everything I'm trying to build. I actually need to stop and deal with that.
Yeah.
At what point did that happen?
It really took most of my life to get there. I was in a relationship with somebody that was a very toxic relationship, and I was trying to make it work. And then I found out after about 4.5 years, even after asking this person to marry me and them saying yes, they had basically lied to me about everything. They were actually still married the entire time we were together.
Wow.
And the pain of that was so excruciating that I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I remember sitting in the corner of my living room and looking at the light out in the garage and saying, I just don't want to do this. I can't do this anymore. And I just had like I said, that moment of clarity. I don't know why it happened. Because I was literally thinking, how am I going to take my own life? And then I had this moment of clarity. I was like, I got to do this. The pain of getting through it was fairly excruciating, but it took a lot less time than I thought it would to get there. But it really took me hitting rock bottom. No more pain. Even after losing so much, even after ruining my relationship with my ex-wife and ruining friendships with people and other relationships and going to prison, I still had farther to fall, and it took that. But I finally realized that I'm like, something, there's something here, and I got to go take a look at it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because they say like most addicts, the first step is admitting you're an addict. I think one thing I've seen with a lot of people who have grown up or have experienced some sort of trauma or have a limiting belief, it's not abnormal to them because it was their normal.
Right.
How do you help other people see? Because I think a lot of people watching this would be like, oh, wait a second, Wally's not like me. I didn't go through all that stuff, yet they do have things that are holding them back. How do you help people find that?
Right, and just so people know that they are like me or I'm like them, I was addicted to food since the age of 6, pornography from the age of 11, sex since the age of 12, and money probably since the age of 18. So I had all those addictions I was fighting. And what I found is that awareness is really the best key. It is the one thing you have to do to find out how to solve the problem is, where's it all coming from? Where did it all start? You got to become aware of what's causing that pain. And once you're aware of exactly what causes that pain, you can then go ahead and fix it.
Yes, it's much like it's a really double-edged sword, but like talent. Like when you meet somebody who's 6'5" and can dunk a basketball, you're in awe of their talent, and they're not at all because they were just born that way.
Right.
Right. On the other side of things, like people don't acknowledge their trauma because it just has been part of their life. Right.
Yeah.
So Well, look, you've written this recent book, Tragic Hero. It's about to come out.
Right.
A lot of painful stories in here, but a lot of lessons. I think what I learned from you is that, look, I think you would admit that most people will not hit the rock bottoms you hit.
I hope not. I hope not. That's my goal.
Right, but everyone has blind spots. Everyone has places that they need to heal from to move forward.
Right.
I think what I get from you is that no matter where you are, you've got more than a fighting chance. You can become a champion, but you can never get to the actual pinnacle of success without someone helping you see those blind spots that you cannot. I would say for everybody watching right now, the more convicted you are that there's nothing holding you back, the more you have a problem.
Right.
The more something is holding you back that will never let you get to here. So tell me a bit about the book, and then tell me a little bit about how you actually functionally help people.
Sure. So the book is really, it's like part memoir, part personal development book, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I use my experiences over my lifetime to help people understand that, there's a lot of crap you can go through, but there's solutions to dealing with those problems, no matter how painful they've been, no matter, like I said, how far down you've been. And so the book really chronicles everything that happened and then how I was able to overcome that. Okay?
Yep.
As far as how I help people, everybody has, they call it a superpower. I'm not sure it's my superpower. Somebody said my superpower was asking the right questions. Being able to ask people questions that causes them to think a little bit and realize that, hey, wait a second, there is a problem, and then give them the fact that there is hope. That you do have hope, that there is something better there for you, and then, telling them my story, because I think my story helps them relate to me, helps them understand that, geez, oh my God, there's a guy that's gone through something that I've been through, and I can leverage that to go ahead and become better myself.
Yep.
Right, and that's kind of how it all starts, and then I take them through a process of, once they identify what the problem is and become aware of it, how to deal with those emotions, and then rewire their brain so that they can go ahead and change to become the person that they truly want to be.
I know a lot of the work you've done over the years, just as sort of a small piece of this, is helping people get over their fear of the phone.
Yeah.
And picking up the phone and calling people, which is a lost art these days. I mean, just give me a couple of secrets so someone watching might not even realize they have an anxiety of picking up the phone to call people. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
So, the problem is it's not the phone they're afraid of, it's what's on the other end of it, right? So the need for approval. Like 65% of salespeople have a very, very extreme need to be liked. So if you're worried about being liked and you're calling somebody, you could not be liked. You could be embarrassed. You could be rejected, If that makes any sense, know? So they're not afraid of the phone. They're afraid of what's on the other end of it. So what I do is I first get them to understand why they feel rejected, why they feel they would be embarrassed, why they need acceptance, and then help them work through that to the point where they don't need anybody's acceptance, because we really don't need anybody's acceptance except for our own, right?
Right.
And once we get to that point, we can then go ahead and pick up the phone and make phone calls, because we're not worried about what other people are thinking. We're focusing more on what we can do to help them rather than the narrative of I'm not good enough.
Wow. But yeah, there's so many things. Again, the more I study with, I've studied with some of the best in the world, right? I mean, Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, Tony Robbins. I've spent personal time with a lot of these people. Peter Diamandis, who put the first private spaceship up in space that Richard Branson bought. I mean, the more I hang out with people who are billionaires at the top of their game, and it's not all about money, but it is a good scorecard, right? People who've done the most incredible things I've ever seen. It's the really small tweaks and people who are really willing to dig in emotionally. And so I'd really encourage anybody watching this, whether they feel like they're doing great or not, incrementally every breakthrough that's going to be exponential, it's actually it's harder to find the thing that's holding you back.
No, and that's why awareness is so important, because if you're not aware that there's another level that you can get to and that it's 100% in your control, you're not going to do it.
Yep.
And in what, to your point, the growth may be monumental, but that distinction could be fractional. Tiny.
It is. And one of the things I love about what you do is you help people become self-aware, not self-conscious.
Right.
It's a very big difference. I think one of the biggest skills, I was interviewing Daniel Negreanu, 6-time World Series of Poker champion. I said, Daniel, what do you think is the biggest secret to being a great poker player? And he stopped for like 10 seconds. He goes, I think it's being self-aware. I said, don't you think that's the biggest secret to everything in life? He goes, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
So I love how you help people find that. You help them find those little hinges that swing big doors. Wally, I know that people can read your book. They can learn more there. But if someone watches this and they're just intrigued, they want to know more, they don't have to commit, but how do they find out a little bit more about you and how to work with you?
Sure. So they can go to phonesalesecrets.com. Actually, there's an opportunity for anybody to schedule 15 minutes in my calendar if they want to talk to me, which is fine. That's going to be on Amazon sometime at the end of June, so I'm excited about that. You can go ahead and look at it there. And then I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. under Wally Bressler and Phone Sales Secrets, so they can find me any of those places.
Awesome, man. Well, there's not a whole lot of people I will personally vouch for. I'll personally vouch
I appreciate that, man.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
coming on
much.
the show.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. We'll be
Appreciate
back
that.
soon on Times Square Today.